From one tale of shadowy governmental overreach to an attempt to suppress political opposition that became so infamous that its name has been immortalized in the Conspiracy Theory Hall of Fame. It was 1972, and the several-month-long build-up toward the next presidential election was already underway, with Republican President Richard Nixon running against Democrat candidate George McGovern. Little did the public know that a discovery was about to be made that threatened to upend the entire election process, and the president himself knew about it. Several months before the election, Frank Wills, a security guard working at an office, apartment, and hotel complex in Washington, D.C., discovered that various locks around the complex had been tampered with. Suspecting a possible break-in, Wills called the police, who arrived and apprehended 5 burglars who had forced an entry into the offices of the Democratic National Committee. But this wasn't about a score because these weren't ordinary burglars. While inside, they'd intended to steal several important campaign documents and attempted to plant bugs to listen in on phone lines. Upon investigation, it was discovered that 4 of these 5 men were former agents of the Central Intelligence Agency and had been involved in actions against Cuban leader Fidel Castro. At the time, though, the press reported that the attempted burglars were Cubans, despite only 3 of them having Cuban heritage. The 5th was a security chief for the Committee to Re-elect the President, or CREEP for short. They had conspired with a former FBI agent who is a counsel for CREEP, as well as another high-ranking CIA officer who'd recently been appointed to the staff of the White House. As this tangled web began to unravel, it seemed to point to one man being at the center, President Nixon himself. He made aggressive attempts to cover up the scandal and was believed to have even hired the 5 men in the first place, but this did little to prevent journalists from the Washington Post from uncovering his role in the conspiracy. This botched attempt at an act of blatant political sabotage was what ultimately led to the downfall of the Nixon administration, with almost 70 people being impeached as a result. Nixon resigned from office in 1974 since Congress couldn't impeach him if he were to step down. Thus, he avoided facing criminal charges. The scandal would eventually be named after the hotel that it started in, the Watergate Complex. This Watergate scandal forever changed U.S. politics, leading many Americans to think more critically about their leaders. After all, if the president could use his power to attempt to cover up something like this and get away with it, then it didn't exactly smack of being trustworthy.